Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Rebecca's Wild Side. This is the third podcast I'm putting out. I posted episode 2 about 16 days ago, so I've got quite a lot to catch up on. I've got quite a lot of new cast-ons and only a handful of finished objects, but I really wanted to share them with you, so I thought I'd sit down today and do that. If you watched the previous episodes, you will notice I am sat in a new area. It's starting to get a lot darker in the UK and I am sat in front of a big glass door now. So hopefully you'll get some lovely natural light and you'll be able to see my projects a lot better than if I was sat in a dark hallway with artificial lighting on. So I'll just go ahead and get started with my first finished object, and it is what I am wearing today. This is my Celeste pullover by Petite Knit. I think I'd finished both of the sleeves in the previous episode. I actually can't remember now, but I did finish this pretty soon after I posted the last podcast. I'm trying to think about how I can show you it a bit better. I'll get close. So this is the colourwork. I've got it on the right way, haven't I? Oh, I haven't. I've got it on backwards. And do you know how I could tell? I could tell because there are short rows in this piece, but they're not the most obvious. But I could tell because the line. I'm gonna fix that for you right now. I had a slight feeling when I sat down to record this that I might not have had this on the right way because it was pulling up a little bit at the back, and now I think it fits a bit better. So this is my Celeste pullover by Petite Knit on the correct way now. I haven't sewn a label or a tag or anything in it yet, so that's mainly why I struggled. There you go, there's the bottom and there's my sleeves. As you can tell, they're a little bit longer than what I usually knit. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I usually wear it tucked into my jeans because I didn't want to go any longer. I probably could have gone shorter, but I did want to be able to tuck it in to other garments, especially as it's getting colder here now. But yes, you've already seen the back, so I don't think I need to show you the back, but it's a beautiful colourwork yoke. I have done mine in the same, well, I tried to match up the same colours as Petite Knit did because I thought hers looked so good, and I knew it wouldn't look wrong if I tried to copy her colours, and I am thrilled with it. I've worn it. I finished this pretty much 2 weeks ago now, and I have worn it like 6 times, so that's pretty good for me. When I last spoke about it, I wasn't sure how I was going to finish it. I think I was trying to follow as close to the pattern as possible, but all I did was, see if you can see there, just a 1x1 ribbing, and then I just did an Italian bind off. I didn't do any double knitting, or I didn't do a tubular bind off or anything like that. I just sewed it off. And exactly the same with the cuffs. This is knit up in Drops Lima, which is their DK weight standard yarn, which I'd call. It is 100% Highland Peruvian wool. Oh, I think that's wrong. It's not. I just checked the Flora, which is the 4-ply fingering weight version, and it is 75%, I'm gonna get this right, it is 65% wool and 35% alpaca, so that's what this is as well. And it's not itchy, which is really nice, because I have used Drops Nepal, which is exactly the same, but in an Aran weight yarn, And I found that a little bit itchy when I knit my first ever jumper with that, and I found it a little bit itchy, but this one I don't. I don't know if that's because it's slightly looser. I said in the last video I didn't make any modifications to this. That was a lie. It wasn't so much that I think I was trying to make modifications. I just tried something and then tried to fix it. So what I did is I cast on the size 2, which is an extra small because Petite Knit now does an extra small. And when I got to the finished yoke, the colourwork yoke, it wasn't long enough. So as you can see here, it would have been far too short. Although I matched stitch gauge, I didn't match row gauge. So what I did was, I was also worrying that it wasn't going to be big enough, that I kept increasing in the circular yoke until the small size, so size 3, and thought I'd do the body in size 3. I did that. I split for sleeves, which was fine. At the time, in the last video, I think you hear me say, oh, it's a little bit tight under the arm, but I'm hoping that would release in blocking a bit, and it really did. It just opened up a tiny bit, and although it is higher, I think, than it's supposed to be under the arm, I really like it. It's really comfortable for me. Yeah, I don't know if it's as noticeable, but if it is, I really like how it looks. So I'm very happy with that. But then the body was really quite big. So what I did was, and I actually did this on my poppy jumper, which I don't know if I mentioned because I kind of forgot I did it, and I did it on this one as well. I did decrease after the bust, so around between kind of the bust and the waist, I decreased a bit and just kept going. I didn't increase again, I just decreased and then started my ribbing. It's not particularly noticeable. I think I did 2, 4, maybe 6 decreases on each side, so 12 decreases in all. I'm not sure what stitch count that gave me in the end, where I was between an extra small and a small. I'm not sure what it came to, but yeah, it worked. The stitches stayed even, so I could do my 1 by 1 rib, and I am thrilled with it. It didn't grow, although it loosened up around the colourwork, which is quite important because another project I'm about to speak about, I've noticed when I knit colourwork, I do knit very tightly. Whereas I think when knitting stockinette, I tend to be a lot more of a looser knitter. So although it did open up here, which was really nice, my sleeves didn't grow too much. So, which is great because I knit them long anyway, and I thought if they're long, whatever. But I knit them long and they haven't really grown much, so very happy with that. My main colour is Drops Lima in Deep Taupe. The lighter brown is Grey Taupe. The beige colour is Wheat Mix. The blue is Ice Blue. And the dark navy is not navy, it's either indigo or petrol blue, but I will list them down below. And yeah, that is my Celeste pullover. I am so close to ordering another sweater quantity in this because I love it so much, but I don't want my YouTube to influence my knitting too much, but I really want to knit another one, but I don't want to not bore you guys. But if I'm knitting the same project over and over again, I think that could get a bit tedious, but I definitely will be casting on another one very soon. A couple of people did mention in the last few videos that I look at the monitor quite a lot, and that's just habit. I'm trying really hard not to do it from now on. The main reason I have it facing me is so that when I give you guys a close-up, I can see that it's focused, but fingers crossed it all goes well and it just auto focuses and you guys don't get any blurry shots. I also wouldn't be able to tell today because I'm not wearing my glasses. So that's a good start. So that is my first finished object. That is my main finished object and my only sweater today. I do have 2 more finished objects. They are very fast cast on pieces. You haven't seen them before. I cast them on, I finished them. One of them took me like half a day. I will start with this one. This is a very small weekend hat. Now this is not knit to gauge or to pattern, but it's just, yeah, I had some really pretty pink merino that is a DK yarn and I held it double, so I guess this is between like an Aran and a chunky yarn, a chunky weight. I knit it on 4.5mm needles. No, that's a lie. I knitted on 5mm needles and it's very tight engaged, but it stretches because it's 1x1 rib. It stretches out super far. And originally this was for me. I cast on something like 80 stitches. And because I did originally try to cast on the weekend hat just using 1 strand of DK, and I cast on the right amount of stitches and it was, I think it was humongous. I was really, and I know people say that the weekend hat actually looks smaller than it is, so I was like, something's really not right here. But yeah, I decided to frog that and cast on this amount of stitches. I thought this might fit me. It soon became very clear that it wasn't going to, but I was really enjoying it. So what I did was I decided I would knit this for my baby niece, who is only 6 weeks old, but babies' heads get big really quickly. So I think it's quite a good size for her. Now, because I knit a funny number of stitches, the decrease was not going to work with the weekend hat pattern. So I tried to follow it as close as possible, but just swap some of the pearls and some of the knits around. So what I'll show you here is, I think this is what it's supposed to look like, this one here. And then, so 2 of them ended up looking like this, with 1 knit line down the middle, and 2 of them ended up looking like this with 2 knit lines down the middle. So that's the only real difference. I don't think it's noticeable enough for anybody who A, doesn't know the pattern, or B, doesn't really know knitting to notice it, and it still looks good and it's not too wonky. There are 20 stitches, oh it must have been 82, because there are 20 stitches between some of the decreases and 21 between two of the others. So anyway, and I stuck just a pom-pom. It's just a cheap pom-pom that I had, which can be removed on top. So I did have the label for this up until a couple of days ago and I have just thrown it away. This is, as far as I can remember, yeah, it was on sale and it's in a pink colour. Sorry, that's all I know. Now, my next finished object is actually a knitted piece. It is a crocheted piece. So I felt a bit bad for knitting my niece a hat and not making one for my nephew. So here is a little crochet version of a little beanie. I'm hoping it fits. So at the moment there is a beanie going around on Instagram for beginners or for anyone really, but it is by Crafty Mama Mer, or Mer. Her name is Miranda, and she has released a crochet pattern for this beanie that she's been releasing everywhere. It's really simple. It's just a half double crochet strip that you sew together down the side and then pull at the top, and then you fold it up. And what I did, the only difference I did with this one is that I crocheted around the top. I just did like a crochet edge because I don't like the standard crocheted edge on this. But yeah, it's 2 yarns held together. This is 100% acrylic yarn. It's just 2 balls I picked up from, it wasn't even what I'd call like a yarn store, it was just like a local craft store. And I just held 2 strands of the DK together and winged the amount of chains and made this. So that is my other finished object. The actual pattern name for that beanie is Maggie's Beanie by Crafty Mama Mir. So those are my 3 finished objects. 2 of them are quite small, quite quick, but I have had absolute cast on fever, so I have quite a few whips to show you, a variation of pieces as well, so I'll get started on them now. I'm going to start with what I am knitting on most of them every day, so I'm really like mixing it up, but I will start with this first. There we go. Ooh, it's very pale. This is the Klint Classic Sweater by Anna Ventzel. I've pronounced that wrong. By Anna Ventzel. And I found this on Ravelry, and I just absolutely loved the texture. So I've been really wanting to make a cabled pullover jumper for quite some time, and first of all I couldn't find one that wasn't super chunky, or I did. I like one of the patterns by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I think it's number 15 and it's got loads of tiny little cables. I was a really big fan of that, and then there is one more that I really like. I can't remember the name, but I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, I saw this, and although it's not cabled at all, it's just a 2x2 broken rib. But I really like the look of it, and I thought I'd cast this on. So I am using for this, finally, my Alpaca 2 held double with a strand of mohair. If you have been watching the past few podcasts, you will know I've had this yarn for a very long time, and I have not been able to create anything where I like the gauge, but with this textured piece I think it works so well and I'm really happy with it. So I had to order more yarn. To finish this because I didn't have enough, and I didn't have enough mohair either. So I managed to get 3 more hanks, skeins. Quick debate. I see people call these hanks. So to me, this is a skein and this is a ball. And this is a cake. Yeah? But I've seen people online call this a hank, this a skein. So I don't know. But yes, I got 3 more of these. And it is the Isager Alpaca 2 in E0, which is their natural uncoloured yarn. So my thought process was, although I bought the yarn a long time ago, because it is supposed to be undyed, I was hoping it was going to match, and so far it's been perfect. So fingers crossed it stays that way. I wasn't even 100% sure. I'm also using Tynn Silk Mohair in, I think it's called Off-White. The colour is, I want to say 1012. Here we go, I've got it here. The colour is 1012. I'm not 100% sure if this is the mohair that I was holding with originally, but I've started knitting with it and it looks absolutely fine and it feels the same. So that was my best guess. I cast this on in the smallest size, and I have followed this, finally I can say it, I have followed this 100% to pattern. Partly by choice, also partly by not confusion. There is nothing wrong with the pattern. It's a really good pattern, and if you follow the pattern word by word, it's fine. But I guess I am a new knitter, or I'm a knitter and I've worked with petite knit patterns, My Favourite Things patterns, a few of handmade by Florence Patterns, and a couple more of really what I'd call like mainstream designers patterns. And this is just written quite differently. So it took me a little bit of time to understand how to read this pattern. I will say, like, a lot of the instructions are knit in pattern here. And at the beginning of the pattern, I had to rip back quite a bit because it didn't look anything like it was supposed to, and I thought there was something wrong with the pattern maybe, and then I went on Reddit and I found other people had the same problem, and then when somebody explained it, it made a little bit more sense. So I now know when it says knit in pattern, at the beginning of the pattern, it says what the pattern is. So for example, this is purl 2, knit 2. And then the other row is just knit. But it's not always necessarily purl 2, knit 2. Sometimes it can be purl 1, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, or knit 1, purl 2, knit 2, purl. If that makes any sense to you. So the way somebody really clearly explained it was, as you're knitting, look back at what you've knit before and continue that. Don't just always start with purl 2. Therefore you keep the broken rib if you understand what a broken rib is, which I did, because I have actually knit broken rib socks before, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. So it took me a little bit of understanding. And the only other thing I will say about this pattern is, so you pretty much knit the whole yoke and then you put the short rows in at the bottom, similar to the Celeste pullover. But what I found with this one was, I'm really glad actually, she does say in the pattern, the short rows will look lopsided. Don't worry, this works out. And I was like, okay, I literally was like, I'm just gonna follow the pattern word for word and it's gonna work out, because I put my trust in the pattern, which you should do every time, but maybe I have trust issues. I did that, and I don't even know how to explain it, because you don't start, the beginning of round isn't at the back, it's before one of the raglans. But when you knit the short rows, you knit them a lot longer on one side, and then the other side, yeah, so they elongate on one side and then they get shorter on the other side. It just didn't make sense in my head, or even like looking at it, it didn't make any sense. And then I split for sleeves, and I think the short rows must equal out on the sleeves, as short rows usually do. But it was just, yeah, it was really hard to understand, but I trusted in it. I split for sleeves and it looks even. So I don't know what magic that is. I'm sure it's a really well-known technique. It just didn't 100% make sense in my head and was a little bit confusing for me. But I followed the pattern word to word and I've made it. I've split for sleeves. I just do the pattern all the way around down the body, and the sleeves are really big. The sleeves, I thought at the start, were gonna be bigger. They're almost as big as the body. Each side, the front and back, if that makes any sense. But yes, it's looking really good. I can't wait to try it. I haven't tried it since splitting for sleeves, but... Hello? Oh, sorry, I thought someone was talking to me. I haven't tried it since splitting for sleeves, but it looks really good, and because it's a 2x2 rib, it looks small in a way, and I quite like the idea of it being fitted, but I know it's not gonna be, because when it blocks, I think the 2x2 rib's gonna open out. I'm gonna give you a real close-up now. Oh my god, that was not good. That was not good. There you go. It's really white. I'm hoping you can see, and I just did a double folded twisted rib neckline. Yeah, doing the smallest size, exactly as the pattern goes, and I'm really excited to see how that comes out. I think I will fly through this. I think it's going to be finished very soon. I did have to wait a little bit for the yarn to arrive, but it's all here now. I should have more than enough. It is a cropped short. It's got a short body in the pattern. I don't know whether I'm going... I think I probably will. I think I'm going to keep this short and boxy, and then have the big sleeves, but they tighten at the cuff almost like the balloon sweater, So yeah, it's almost got balloon sleeves. But yes, super happy with that. I am knitting it on, oh, don't lose stitches, they're gonna fall off. Oh, serves me right. Oh, and it's in pattern. I have knit it on 4mm needles throughout, including the neckband. The original pattern is knit on 3.5mm needles and 4mm needles on the body, so I've done 4mm throughout. And yeah, I seem to be so far on gauge. So obviously unblocked. I didn't do a gauge switch, a gauge swatch. That's quite a hard word to say, a gauge swatch, because I never do, and I'd rather just wing it. Yes, so very happy with that. I feel like I say that at the end. I am very happy with that. Actually, I'm very, very excited about that because I've really wanted a textured jumper for so long. It still is a little bit see-through, which is the same problem I had with the cardigan I was knitting with that combo, everything, and I think that's just the way the yarn's going to be. I'm hoping when I block it, the alpaca will fluff up a bit. If not, it's the type of jumper you wear a t-shirt underneath with, or, you know, or you could just show off your undergarments. Whatever you please, but yes, very happy with it. I'm now going to show you my second pullover. I can't believe it. I think this is the first time I've ever worked. I'm usually a monogamous knitter, but since starting this podcast, I really wanted to try working on a few things at once because it's so much more interesting for you and it's growing on me. I think also because I'm becoming a more experienced knitter, I am able to flip between projects. My next project is, that's the back, where's the front? This is the Mist Sketch Sweater by Handmade by Florence Miller, who is also on YouTube. So Florence is the reason I knit my first ever garment, my first ever sweater, when I got back into knitting. She has a YouTube tutorial on a really beautiful just sweater knit in Drops Nepal, which I've spoken about a few times. I did put it in the washing machine, so it no longer exists. I actually have it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to show you it. It's felted, but it's great. I really never thought that I would show this, but hey ho, it's so much fun. So this is the first ever sweater I made. As I said, it's following the Knitting by Florence tutorial on YouTube. It's felted, but it does fit me. I don't know how that works. It's very cropped, but it's kind of like, it's like that. It's cool. But yeah, I don't know why I showed you that. It's very simple raglan. Knitting by Florence, Handmade by Florence, great YouTube channel. I love watching her podcasts. She does the odd tutorial, which is amazing. She also helped me knit my first sock. So I tried knitting like a vanilla sock before. I didn't really enjoy it. She then released a video doing the petal drop socks, and I bought that pattern and I knit those, and I now use that pattern for my stockinette socks, or just my general sock pattern. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this is her Mist Sketch Sweater. It's a really pretty stranded colourwork yoke. It's a simple raglan pullover. And I have knit it in Knitting for Olive, Merino and Soft Silk Mohair, which is exactly the same yarn that Florence's pattern uses, that the original pattern uses. I've had this yarn for a really long time. I picked it up when I was over in Copenhagen, and I picked up the two colours, Dusty Dove Blue and Ice Blue. And I originally picked it up for a drop sleeve colourwork two-tone pullover, which I tried knitting up in a different yarn and I didn't get on with the pattern very well. So I thought instead of trying that, I will try and find another one. I have been looking for a long time for a two-tone, for a stranded colourwork, two-colour pullover, and I hadn't really come across anything I liked, and then I remembered that I'd seen this on Florence's Instagram. Yeah, I decided to give it a go. It's really simple, really. I think in the original one she does a short neck. I've elongated mine a little bit because I like this neck on this one, so I thought I'd try and do the same. I did make some modifications to it, so I cast on for the second size, but I did the neckline, I did the collar, I decreased to the smallest size because I thought if it's going to sit higher it should be smaller, and then I just continued knitting the second size. As you can see, there is a little bit of bunching around the neck. I don't know if you can see it on camera. It does, it's completely unblocked, and I think it will block out, and it might have something to do with the fact I changed the stitch count at certain points. But I've tried it on and it looks okay, and if you do get bunching, what I do with it is if I just fold the collar over, it hides all the bunching. So that is worst case scenario. I learned very quickly that when knitting the colour work, my tension is incredibly tight, because this completely is nowhere near gauge. Gauge on this sweater is 20 stitches by 27 rows per 10 centimeters. Mine is 29 stitches, and I know that is unblocked, but that is still way off. And at the start, I didn't go up a needle size. I'm not 100% sure what the pattern explains for needles. It says a 4.5mm and a 4mm needle, which is what I used. I used a 4.5mm needle on the colour work. And then I didn't switch for these two rows, and you can really see the difference. I don't know if it's visible on camera, but in person you can really see the difference. It starts to like balloon a little bit. So I did switch to a 4mm needle in the body. So I have got two jumpers on at the moment on 4mm needles, which is, yeah, it's fun. I know that the sleeves and the body is going to be long, but the textured cream jumper, the Klint Classic, is knitting up quite quickly, so shouldn't be too painful. This one, on the other hand, it is a little bit painful working on the stockinette now. Because it was never going to be big enough or long enough, the raglan actually stops about halfway through the third section here. I was nowhere near ready to split for sleeves here, or even finish the raglan increases, so I went all the way, and I only split for sleeves about halfway through this block, what I've done now. But it fits really well. I'm hoping it will grow a little bit more, so I'll get a bit more space around the shoulders. In a similar place to in the other one, I am just knitting the body now. But it is a beautiful pattern, and I'm really glad I bought it. It's a shame that I couldn't make gauge on the colour work. Even with 4.5, like I knit it with 4.5mm needles. It is recommended to be knit with 4.5mm needles. I don't have a clue how Florence managed to get 20 stitches in a gauge, and I'm using exactly the same yarn, but it's just so personal, isn't it? Okay, I've just double checked the pattern, and that's why I was getting a little bit confused. The collar is knit in a 4mm needle, and the body is knit in 4.5 throughout. I knit in 4.5 here, but I couldn't continue to knit 4.5 in the single colour because it was the wrong size. So I think if I was to try knit it again and try and make gauge, I probably would have knit it in a 5mm needle and then a 4.5mm needle in the body, and that probably would have worked better. But just, it's more knitting for me. I've got a slightly tighter gauge, which is fine. I do find with the Knitting for Olive soft silk and the soft silk mohair, and also Sunday and a mohair, that if I knit in a 4mm needle, that is still see-through enough. I always feel that if I went up to a 4.5mm needle with either the Sunday or the knitting for Olive, it would be too gappy with blocking on top. I knit my balloon sweater in Sunday and a Mohair, and on 4mm needles, and after blocking it really opened up and still looked a little bit, I don't know what the word is, see-through, loose. So I do think that going up to 4.5mm needle would increase that issue more. Either way, this is turning out nicely. I'll be really interested to see how it fits when blocked. I love the pattern. It's a really well written pattern. I really enjoy Florence's patterns. She doesn't design as often as I would like, and I'm sure as often as many would like, but she is also pumping out the knits. I know she's got loads of patterns coming out soon, and she does an incredible podcast, so I definitely recommend that you go and check it out. Her tutorials are really clear, and we love another fellow English knitter. Anything I might have missed out or any details from that jumper are going to be below. So those are my two pullover work in progresses. They're two new ones that you haven't seen before. I do have my West Knits MKAL that I was working on before. It's really scrunched up, so I don't know how good it's gonna look on camera. So before I was nearly finished with Clue 1. I am now working on Clue 2. I am pretty much knitting it in garter because I don't enjoy purling. To be completely honest with you, I have struggled with this project or finding any motivation to work on this project, and that is because I'm not a shawl knitter, I'm not a shawl wearer. I don't even enjoy knitting blankets, but I really wanted to take I didn't want to have FOMO and I wanted to take part in the knit along, in the mystery knit along. So I did. It is knit up in Drops Flora in colours. I said them in the last video, they'll be down below. Ice blue, navy, petrol, and then unfortunately I don't know the colour of this one, but I'll put it down below. It's colour 13. It might be called light blue. And I'm just knitting on this when I get a tiny bit of motivation to, usually in the evening. There are a lot of colour changes, there's a lot of weaving in ends, but I'm glad I'm doing it and it will get finished. It's just growing very slowly, but I do have something to show you. So started Clue 2. All the clues are out now. There are plenty of finished shawls online and on the Ravelry page, which you can check out if you're interested in seeing more of those. I made a lot of modifications, which you are encouraged to do, and Stephen West does tutorials on each clue on his YouTube channel, so you've got extra support there. And so many people are working on it. There's a lot of support out there for those patterns, so I highly suggest if you want to knit a shawl or jump into that world, that's a good way to go around it. I have one more work in progress to talk about. It's a very small one, but it's, you know, it's fun. This is my travel whip, a sock. As I just said, I have used Handmade by Florence Miller's sock pattern for a while to make the petal drop socks. This is just a vanilla sock in this beautiful sock yarn by Molten Yarns. I have spoken about this yarn before, this Etsy shop, and in the past few videos I said that I couldn't find the Etsy shop, that I thought it might have been closed. I think that was only temporary because I went on Etsy the other day and the shop is back open. There are plenty of fun yarns on there to check out. It's your standard sock yarn, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. This is a one-off colour. It's called Colour Play number 1. I think it's, you know, like a tester. I bought it as a one-off. It's got 400 meters, and yeah, so I cast this on. This is a 64 stitch sock on, I think these are 2.5mm needles. Because, and the reason I say that, I think it really needs to be knit on 2.25mm needles, which I'm not even sure I have, because it looks very big. But although it's big around the ankle, it's still tight to get onto my foot. I'm not a huge sock knitter. Sometimes I just do them as a bit of a palette cleanser. So I don't know my perfect sock recipe, but yeah, it is quite large, and I do think that when I finish it, they're not going to be your tight socks. I think they're going to be quite baggy, but they are still a little bit tricky to get over my foot, and I don't know if that's just the shape of my foot. I have small feet. I'm a UK size 5, and yeah, I still struggle to, I say small, I think that's like just under average, but anyway, it's not, I don't have a large foot, and I do struggle to get these on. Yeah, the yarn is so pretty. I just really wanted to work it. It's kind of self-striping. I've done a slip stitch heel, and then kind of winged gusset. I say winged it, I've just done a decrease down the side of the gusset, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. I know that knitting the second one's going to be a slog. I just know it already. Just a really quick input here, because I forgot to mention it in the last episode. I had a cowl that I was making in the red and white Kinross 4-ply. Obviously I didn't show that today. Even though I stuck a border on it, I did a ribbed border, it was curling up after I started the colour work, and I really wasn't enjoying it as a cowl, so I was really hoping I could make it into a hat, but it was just too large, so I've actually frogged it. There is still the option of using that yarn to make a hat or a beanie. Anyway, if anybody has any ideas for small colour work projects, I would love to hear them. I'm always open to new ideas. I was tempted to make a red and white striped hat, but it would just scream, "Where's Wally?" So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I'd be open to a hat with some colour work or something else. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. The other option is I bite the bullet and buy more of that yarn, although it is quite expensive, but I'm just really looking forward to washing it up, because when I say that yarn softens up on a whole nother level, it definitely does. It's really cool. So, but yeah, I will now move on to acquisitions. This week I'm gonna say I don't have many acquisitions. I know I've got a really large delivery arriving. I don't know if it's arriving right now. It should be here. Maybe I should go and check for it. And then but then I'm almost positive I won't have anything to show you next week. But I will start with something that isn't yarn, but it is a knitting acquisition. So I went to an antique fair where I live the other day, not that long ago, a week ago, and I found these. So these are really cool. These are mother of pearl buttons. They are real mother of pearl, because you can see the, I don't know if you can see it clearly. Anyway, you can see the back. They are straight up mother of pearl, and they are stunning. I'm assuming they are vintage or antique, and that they have been, what's the word? Reclaimed from an old garment, just because of the way they're sewn onto the card. I paid £18 for 6 buttons. I know that it's expensive, but I know that when the day comes that I make a cardigan, oh, it's not delivery, it's somebody leaving, that's a shame. I know that when the day comes that I commit to that cardigan, I want to put that cardigan will deserve the best buttons. And I love anything mother of pearl, and I think they go with most neutral colours and most things that I like. That's my first acquisition, and then my second acquisition is more buttons. These are pretty. Okay, so I don't know what these are, but I'm going to show you. I paid £10 for 10 of these. Ooh, I actually haven't seen them out of the packet yet, so I'm glad I got to do that. Oh, they feel really good quality. So these definitely look like, I don't know how well you could see those. Here's another one because they're all slightly different. They are quite good quality. I think they must be a stone or a shell of some sort. They are beautiful. They are really, really beautiful. They're kind of, they've got this marbling effect. But I do have a question for you actually. So, oh, that one's chipped. Very sad, that one's chipped. Okay. So, this way round, they have that little indentation in the middle. But what I would consider the back is very beautiful. So I don't know if you can sew them on backwards, but also the front is very pretty. They're just like a dark brown with some metallic elements. So those were my two little non-yarn acquisitions, and I'm really glad I got them. I think it's quite hard to find nice buttons. We don't have a lot of haberdashery stores where I live, so I don't know where you would get really nice buttons. I think one of the best ways to do it is to reclaim them from vintage garments, because you know you're going to get the best quality and a lot of natural materials as well. Yeah. So it's currently just after midday and I did go and check my post box and no yarn yet, so I'm not going to be discussing my acquisitions today, which actually works out well because they are all from the Yarnside hand-dyed yarn company, which I get every month, and I wouldn't be able to talk about the November mystery yarn anyway because I like to leave it a couple of weeks until she's finished producing it to talk about it. But I have a very large order coming from there. They had a huge sale on Etsy where if you spent a certain amount you got £20 off, and I also had a discount code for the Etsy shop. So I did a big order. I'll have lots of yarn to talk about in the next episode, and hopefully I'll see you guys there. Thank you so much for the continued support. I am working on updating my Ravelry at the moment, so hopefully getting better at that. I won't link it in this video, but I will do it I'll aim to have it set up and ready for future episodes. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. I also love reading. I read all of your comments at the moment, and I am really, really enjoying reading what you're working on. So please let me know what you're working on if you've got any whips or any projects you're really excited about. I love learning new patterns, new designs. You guys have introduced me to new designers, which is great, and yeah, I'm really inspired by all of you. So let me know down below, or even if you just say hi, it's great to see you here. If you want to stay updated and want to see future episodes and be updated when I release them, hit that subscribe button. I hope to release them every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. So depending on how much I've got going on and how much knitting time I get in. So yeah, a huge thanks to you guys. You are really keeping me motivated and I'm really enjoying sharing my projects with you. I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.